The house stood silent at dusk, its dark windows staring into the empty street. Wind whispered through the trees, their twisted branches clawing at the sky. A sense of unease clung to the air, thick and suffocating. Behind one dimly lit window, a girl stood motionless, her silhouette barely visible. Inside, everything seemed normal, until it wasn't. The house had secrets buried deep within its walls, and as the last light of day faded, the silence was broken. A sound, faint, deliberate, coming from above. She didn't know it yet, but something had been waiting for her return. She was just a child when she first heard it. Sitting in her new bedroom, surrounded by dolls, she was lost in her own little world, until a sound crept into it. A soft, deliberate creak from above. Her hands froze, her breath caught. The ceiling loomed over her, an invisible weight pressing down. She wasn't alone. Something was there, watching, listening. She clutched her doll tighter, her heart pounding as another shift echoed through the room, then silence. But the kind that wasn't empty, the kind that held something, waiting. Slowly, she stood up and ran straight to her parents. It was an innocent question, one that a child would ask, but the answer left her unsettled. "Do we have an attic?" she had asked, her voice trembling. Her parents, caught off guard, exchanged glances before answering. "Yes, it's in the closet and the garage," they said, but the way they spoke so matter-of-factly made her stomach twist. They had shown her the hidden doors, but they never let her go up. The attic became a forbidden place, its mystery growing with every unanswered question. She couldn't shake the feeling that something up there was waiting, hidden, and it knew she was coming. Years passed without a single sound. The house had settled into a quiet routine, and she tried to forget about the attic, though its mystery still lingered in the back of her mind. But tonight, everything changed. Alone in the bathroom, her phone illuminated her face as she tried to escape the endless chores. The house was still, too still. Then came the sound, faint, like a deliberate scraping, coming from above. Her heart skipped a beat. It was back, the noise she had forgotten, the one that had once filled her with dread. But this time she was trapped. She held her breath, ears straining. The sound wasn't random, it was slow, purposeful, like something shifting just above her, a weight pressing against the attic floorboards. Her grip tightened around her phone, but she didn't move. If she ran now, her parents would hear and they'd make her do chores. But if she stayed, what was she risking? Another creak, closer this time. Dust floated down from the ceiling, disturbed by whatever was up there. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't just the house settling. Something was moving, something aware of her. And worst of all, it had stopped right above her, then silence. The kind that wasn't empty, but full of something unseen. Waiting. She didn't dare move. Her pulse pounded in her ears, louder than the sound itself. The light flickered for just a second, barely noticeable, but enough to send a shiver down her spine. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to breathe. Was it gone? Or was it just waiting for her to react? Slowly, she reached for the doorknob, her fingers trembling. The air felt heavy, thick with something unspoken. The silence stretched on, suffocating. And then, just before she turned the knob, the sound came back. Closer, the door creaked open, revealing a hallway swallowed in shadow. The house felt different, emptier yet suffocating. Her breath was shallow as she stepped out, eyes locked on the master bedroom at the end of the hall. The closet door was ajar. Above it, the attic hatch sat in eerie stillness. She swore it hadn't been opened before. The silence pressed against her ears, louder than any noise. She wanted to look away, but something about that darkness felt aware. Watching, a single step forward, then another. The air was thick, unmoving. And then, just as she reached the door, it creaked. The house remains quiet now. Too quiet. As if whatever once stirred above has finally gone to sleep, or worse, is simply waiting. She tells herself it was nothing. Just old wood settling, maybe a raccoon, maybe her imagination. That's what she clings to when the memories creep back in. The attic was never opened again, not by her, not by anyone. but every so often she swears she hears something in the stillness, just beyond the edge of sound. A whisper of movement, a breath not her own. Her parents still say the same thing. It's just the house, and maybe it is. But there's something about the way they avoid the attic, how they keep the hatch shut tight now, locked even. Something they're not saying, something they've always known. The memory haunts her more than the sound itself. That feeling, paralyzing, suffocating, like she wasn't alone, like something ancient and patient was above her, listening, deciding. Now, every night before she sleeps, her eyes drift to the ceiling. And every night she wonders, what if it starts again? And worse, what if next time it doesn't stop? Because the scariest part isn't that it came back, it's that it never left. The house was old, its walls whispering with the weight of time. Their new bedroom seemed ordinary, until they noticed the attic entrance inside the closet. A simple wooden panel set into the ceiling, barely noticeable. But somehow, it felt wrong. At night, shadows stretched too far, the air carried an unnatural stillness. They told themselves it was just an attic, just an empty, forgotten space. Yet, deep in their gut, something unsettled them. A lingering thought crept in. What if they weren't alone? What if something unseen was watching, waiting just beyond that attic door? The first night they woke in darkness. The television, always left on, was off. The bedroom door, always open, was shut. Confused, they brushed it off. But the second night, it happened again. The clock read 3:12 a.m. A silence hung heavy in the air, unnatural, suffocating. No one in the house admitted to touching the door or the TV, and yet something, or someone, was doing it. The unsettling pattern set in. Lying in bed, they felt it, that creeping sensation of being watched. A presence, invisible but undeniable, lurked in the shadows. It wanted to be known. It wanted to be noticed. That night, exhaustion won over fear. Hours passed before sleep finally came, until something woke them. The room was suffocatingly dark. The TV off, the door shut. A sigh escaped their lips as they sat up, reaching for the light. But then, a noise, a faint shuffle, a whisper of movement. Their breath caught. The closet door was open, just a crack. Blackness seeped from within. Their pulse pounded as they stepped forward, foot landing on something cold. Slowly, trembling fingers flicked the switch. Light flooded the room, revealing chaos. Clothes, belongings, scattered. The attic door, slightly open. Something had been here. The room was wrecked. Clothes, shoes, and papers littered the floor, flung as if by unseen hands. The closet door stood wide open, revealing the attic entrance, shifted, slightly ajar. A void of absolute blackness loomed above. Their heart pounded. Something had come down. Something had been inside. A chill seeped into their bones as they scanned the devastation. No footprints, no signs of intrusion, just disorder, violent, deliberate. The air was thick, charged with something unseen, something angry. The silence felt alive, pressing against their skin. Then, from above, a soft creak. The attic door hadn't just moved, it breathed. Panic surged. They ran, feet pounding down the hallway, heart hammering against their ribs. The basement, safe, away from that thing upstairs. Their parents were there, but so were the dogs. Sitting stiff, ears pricked, eyes locked on the stairs, watching. They asked what happened. Their mother's response sent ice through their veins. She had shut the bedroom door early that morning, the dogs already outside. But the door was closed when they woke. The mess, the open attic, no one had been there, no one human. The dogs whimpered. Something was still upstairs, something that didn't want to leave. Since that night, the attic door has remained closed permanently. They refused to touch it, refused to look at it for too long. But the feeling never leaves. That heavy, oppressive presence lingers, pressing against the air like a held breath. They try to forget, to move on, but every night the house reminds them. The occasional creak in the ceiling, the faint sound of shifting weight above, the way shadows stretch just a little too far in the dim light. The attic is silent, but it's not empty. One day, they gather the courage to check the closet. The door is closed, the attic entrance still shut. But something's different. Scratches, long, deep, deliberate, mar the wooden frame, as if something inside had tried to get out. They step back, heart pounding, pulse roaring in their ears. Then just as they turn to leave, a sound, a faint muffled knock, soft, slow, coming from the attic. Their breath catches. They run. They don't look back. The attic remains shut. But they know the truth now. Whatever is up there, and it's waiting, watching. And it hasn't given up yet. The house sat at the edge of town like a forgotten relic. Ancient, broken, and breathing memories no one wanted. Ivy strangled its rotting walls, and every window seemed to watch with lifeless eyes. No birds perched there. No wind dared sing. Inside lived a boy, just 11, too young to understand the weight of old things. The creaking floors, the whispering pipes, it all felt normal. But the house was patient. It had waited for years, silent and still, until one night when something began to move above him. And that was the moment everything changed. The house had awakened. It was just another quiet night. The boy sat cross-legged on the floor, bathed in the blue glow of his old TV. Cartoons danced across the screen, laughter echoing softly. Then, thump. He froze. Another thump, thump. Louder this time, like something heavy falling, tumbling above him. His eyes rose to the ceiling, the attic. No one ever went up there. Dust fell from the rafters with each impact. Didn't sound like footsteps. It sounded like something struggling or breaking loose. His heartbeat quickened. The house was no longer still. Something had moved, and it had started watching him. The stairs to the attic groaned beneath his feet, each step protesting his climb. The door was stiff, like it hadn't been touched in years, but with a sharp crack it opened. Dust swirled in the stale air, thick and still. A single box had fallen. Halloween decorations scattered like bones across the floor. Plastic skulls, torn masks, fake cobwebs. It was nothing, he told himself. Just old junk toppling over. He stood there a moment longer, watching the shadows stretch unnaturally across the floorboards. Then quietly he turned and walked away, never realizing that he'd just disturbed something real. The next evening, the sound returned. Louder, heavier, more violent. The boy climbed the attic stairs again, dread rising with every step. But this time, something was different. The boxes were no longer where he left them. An old lamp lay shattered, its glass like teeth on the floor. Everything was shifted, twisted, as if someone had rummaged through it in a frenzy. He stood still, breathing shallow. The air felt thick, electric. This wasn't gravity or old wood creaking, this was deliberate. Something had been here, and even worse. It was still watching. He took one cautious step forward, and that's when it hit him. The smell rotten, wet, unnatural. Like meat left in the sun, like something dead, but not done. His stomach turned. He gagged, wiping his nose, but it clung to him, thick, cloying, alive. Then came the feeling, that prickling heat at the back of the neck, the silent scream of instinct. He was not alone. Something unseen stared at him with a gaze so heavy it bent the air. His flashlight flickered. The silence deepened. He turned slowly, and in the darkest corner, something moved. It emerged from the shadows like a nightmare given shape. Hunched on all fours, its limbs were twisted, too long, wrong. Patches of greasy black fur clung to its mangled flesh, parts of bone exposed like broken armor. Its eyes glowed sickly yellow, locked onto him, unblinking, starving. It looked like a wolf, if a wolf had been torn apart and stitched back together by madness. Then it growled, a low rattling sound like gravel in a throat filled with blood. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe. It crept toward him, slow and deliberate. And in that moment, he knew death. Something inside him broke loose, survival. He turned and ran, heart pounding like war drums. The attic stairs blurred beneath him. Then, crack. His foot slipped. He tumbled, arms flailing, crashing down 8 hard steps. Pain screamed through his limbs, but he scrambled to his feet, gasping. At the top of the stairs, it stood, silent, still. Its head tilted, watching him with those dead yellow eyes. Then, without warning, it let out a grunt, deep and primal, and vanished back into the attic, swallowed by the dark. He slammed the door, shaking. He didn't stop running. Not for a second. The boy burst into the backyard, lungs burning, legs weak. He collapsed onto the cold grass, eyes fixed on the attic window, waiting, watching. But nothing moved. The house stood silent, pretending to be innocent once more. He stayed there, trembling, for what felt like forever, until his mother's car pulled into the driveway. She found him pale and shaking. He tried to tell her, every detail, every shadow. But she only smiled and said, "You imagined it." He wanted to believe her, but deep inside he knew the truth. That thing was real, and it was still up there. The attic door stayed closed, but he knew it wasn't over. At night he'd stare at the ceiling, heart racing at every creak. No more footsteps, no growls, just silence. But silence didn't mean safety. It meant waiting. Sometimes the knob would twitch, just once. Sometimes shadows moved beneath the door. His mother never believed him. No one did. But he knew what he saw, and worse, he knew it saw him too. Now all he can do is pray, not for peace, but that whatever's up there never comes down again.